you might laugh at this, but years ago I went to a meeting. We had a professor, a scientist, talking to us, and we were farmers. And he had a screen on the wall, and he said, "No, I'm going to show you a picture." And he showed us a picture of a field of wheat. So, being farmers, he says, "What do you see?" We said, "A field of wheat." He said, "I don't. I see a field of milk bottles." We said, "What?" And he says, "I'm pencils." And this man was a professor, and in the laboratory, he got wheat and he'd taken it apart, rebuilt it, and made it into milk bottles. He made a plastic out of it.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
And he also gave us a pencil each. He said, "This pencil was made out of wheat." It was only in a scientific preliminary stage, but he said it is possible. Whether it's economics, another matter, but it's possible. And so it could be that they'll make bread out of something other than the traditional wheat. But I can see, with this vertical farming, salad crops, that type of thing, you get away with it. I mean, after we used to grow cress in our eggs. When we'd had an egg for breakfast, a boiled egg, we'd put a bit of soil in it and put a bit of cress and mustard seed in and eat that. It can be, we did it under the stairs and in the dark, and brought it out for a day to green it up. I mean, it can be done, but when you've got something like wheat for making bread, I mean, where are you going to get the bread from? You've got to have something to make it out of.
Well, a lot of people these days are going gluten-free anyway, so there might have to be just another source of carbohydrate that comes through. I mean,
yeah, but it's big quantities, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't have the answers. That's why I just, I'm seeing where we go, because at this point, if we do have to keep building, which it looks like we do, then as you've said, the amount of land that's going to be available is shrinking very rapidly. I mean, it's something we're going to have to figure out in the next sort of decade or two. We'll see what happens with Brexit as well, given that you might not be able to get the imports we need, supposedly. It depends on which reports are which. So, I mean, at the minute, it seems to be all right, doesn't it? But that's also a concern, whether we need to be more self-sufficient just for the import sake. But actually, also, these internal farming, apparently you can actually listen to plants. And this is something I've heard. I don't know if you've heard of this one, where they attach sort of electric sort of crocodile clips, for want of a better word, to the leaves of plants, and they send small electric pulses through them, and they can actually read now. It's only experimental. It was in university when I was studying. I read this study, and they can almost listen to when the plant needs more water, if it needs more nitrogen, needs more of this and that, needs to be in different places, and they can actually tailor specific conditions to that plant by speaking, not speaking, I suppose. It's just listening, isn't it? You can't communicate with it. But it's quite interesting that as well. Actually, I didn't realize how much you can tell. It sort of goes to show how much more is going on that I didn't think about, given that if this almost you can communicate with plants these days. And I think they did it with tomato plants as well, where they sent these electric shocks down, particularly as well if you stabbed it with something like a stick, it would be able to tell you that it felt it. They knew something had been put it in danger. It's quite fascinating. I don't know if that's going to become more and more of a thing in the future. Depends where you go with it, because it depends how much they can tell you, really, before you start getting into territories where if they can feel things and if they can communicate, then at what point do they become more than just plants? I suppose like with the animals these days, they've gone from, in the last sort of 10 years, a lot more people are going into more vegetarian and vegan for the animals' sake, because they feel we're learning more about them and their intelligence. How does that go with plants as well? I don't know. I mean, only the future will tell that, I suppose. It depends what the studies bring out and see if you can really actually communicate with them. I suppose tree hugging is not such a bad idea in the end, is it?
Well, I don't know.